Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Gridiron Gals podcast. I am your girl, Reeta, the NFL chick.
And hey, everybody, it's Chelsea, aka Chelsea's right.
And we are officially at week one of college football season, Chels. And we'll talk about that later. Week zero was a mess. But
A
none,
mess.
hey, there was a decent game on, and we'll talk about that later. But for the most part, Navy didn't do what they were supposed to do, which was upset Notre Dame like we've seen them
Mhm,
do before.
mhm.
And that didn't work out. We didn't get to pick on Notre Dame like we usually like to do. So we are a week away from the NFL season, and that is something else that we are extremely excited about. Charles, I'm curious to know your excitement though. The talk of the town obviously is in Dallas with the Cowboys, and the reason why is because Trey Lance was traded to the Cowboys for a fourth round pick. As we know, Trey Lance was the former third overall pick in the 2021 NFL draft. So that makes him uh, you know, essentially in his third season, which he missed majority of the second
Mhm.
season,
Right.
gone. And Zach Wilson, who also was in that same draft, is now a backup for Aaron Rodgers, and Trey Lance will be a backup for Dak Prescott. So when you heard the news of this trade, I'm curious to know what your thoughts were initially and how you feel about it.
Well, I was shocked because we had just talked about it on the podcast that we didn't know what was going to go on with him, but something was going to happen. I mean,
Right.
something was going to happen. So, definitely was very, very shocked that the Cowboys made that move. But I think that some of the drama around it is a little bit unwarranted. Like, he's not going to back up Dak. He's going to be number three. From what I hear now, they do plan to still keep Will Greer, which I'm like, okay, y'all feel like y'all need four quarterbacks, then fine, you need four quarterbacks.
That's crazy.
So yeah, so and there we are. Uh,
Is Will
but
Greer going to be on the practice squad?
yes, he's going to be on.
Oh,
He's going to
okay.
be in the
All right.
practice.
Well, no, really.
Yeah,
But
yeah, he's going
three,
to be in
but
the
three
practice
is a
squad.
lot.
Yeah,
Three is a lot.
three is still a lot. But we also saw what happened with the 49ers when they got down to the gristle one at one time.
In the NFC Championship game, honey.
Yeah,
Hmm.
championship. They got down to the gristle. So, but I think that again, just because it's the Cowboys, we're gonna react. But I also think that San Francisco should have got a little bit more of the eyes on them than the Cowboys. Like the Cowboys got him for nothing, and I hear that a few other teams, including your Ravens, were taking a little peek at him, and were offering like I think Ravens, Seahawks, and maybe one other team was offering like a fifth round for him. Jerry came in with a fourth round, which in essence, I mean, is it very much for a third overall? No, but he was able to come in, so it's a steal, especially since you don't have to pick up that big contract. San Francisco is still eating the bulk of that $34 million contract. I think the Cowboys over the next 2 or 3 years will pay him out the rest of the 6,000, 6 million.
Yeah.
Yeah, right, baby. That 6 million. Um, but I think it's just a situation where everybody's like, uh oh, Dak. What friends? We haven't seen this man play the game of football. Okay,
Right.
we don't know what he can do. We know what Cooper Rush can do. Cooper Rush was re-signed. He got like $3.23 million in March or whatever. We saw that he was able to keep us afloat. He is a very big reason why the Cowboys were able to maintain themselves when Dak was out for a few weeks and were able to get to the playoffs because he won most of those games, which is what you want the backup to do. Just don't mess it up, manage the ball. You don't need to be a superstar or whatever. And so Cooper Rush is the backup. So I don't know what else to say about that, but in addition to people overreacting at all times to whatever the Cowboys do, if the Cowboys sneeze, everybody is reacting. The Cowboys fans all also act the same way, and that's why I have a lot of them muted because they can be very ridiculous. It is, but I think it is a big name. It is a big name, and we don't really make big splashes and trades.
Yeah.
That's not really our thing. We really will do some low key stuff. We don't really do the splashes, and this was most certainly a splash. But other than that, I'm just like, I mean, Now, I do take issue with the fact that Dak didn't know about it. And I take issue with the fact that we know that Dak didn't know about it. Y'all can't shut up for nothing.
Why does
No
Zach
one
need to
else,
know about it?
huh?
Why does Zach need to know about it?
Well, that's how I feel because I'm just like, shit be happening on my job that I don't know about,
Why
right?
they don't have to go to him, and they don't have to go to Zach
They
and
don't.
ask
But
for his
that was one of
opinion.
the questions. Dak, were you aware that this trade was going to happen? And he answered. He was like, "No, I wasn't aware." But I mean,
Is he
the
aware of any of the other ones? Is he aware of any of the moves that they're
this
going
is
to
what I'm
make?
talking about. And Dak was like, "No, I wasn't aware." But I mean, hey, I'm interested. You know, he a young scrapper. Let's bring it on in. You know, so like, what did you expect him to say to that? He didn't know. He didn't know.
And yeah, they don't have to tell him
They
anything.
don't
They
have to
don't.
tell him. I was so surprised that they made this such a big deal. Like, how many players do you think get consulted? I mean, we see when players get traded and things like that. We see the reaction when they lose their buddy on the team and stuff like that. They just don't know. And if ownership, it would be an unnecessary burden for general managers to consult with players every time they wanted to make a decision. You would never get anything done. So I don't understand why that was such a big deal. But I also think that, like, you know, there should have been a little bit better, like with the Cowboys. Like, why y'all? Nobody needs to know that he didn't know. Don't ask these questions. It's just keep it on the low. But I don't. I hope people know that you probably are not going to see Trey Lance this year, unless something drastic happens. And let's hope for a clean season here.
To my
Because drastic would mean that goes down, Cooper Rush goes down, and now we got Trey Lance.
Trey Lance has played 8 games since he's been an NFL quarterback. So I'm not really sure what people are expecting
I want
from
everybody
him.
to open the windows up in your house and take a deep breath.
uh,
It also goes back to what we were talking about in the last podcast about San Francisco. Like, y'all, what was you doing with this pick anyway? Like, what were you doing? Um, you know, if Kyle is the quarterback whisperer, like people say he's the quarterback whisperer, why you ain't whispering to this boy right here?
I want to know too. I'm curious to know why y'all so quick to let him go. I mean, I clearly they feel like he's not what they thought he would be, but I've always questioned why you thought he was going to be something. Do y'all think that everybody that comes from these smaller D1 schools are Josh Allen? If so, that's on you. That's your problem.
That's
And
Josh
to get back to what you had mentioned earlier, the Ravens did um, offer a sixth round with a conditional fifth based on whatever their conditions were, but the Cowboys obviously had the better offer because fourth is better than six.
Allen.
So yeah, I mean there are quite a few teams that looked into Trey Lance. Of course, you want a guy that if something happens to your quarterback and your team is competitive, you want someone that you feel like could at least help in the process of waiting for your quarterback to come back. So I mean, I don't think anything of it. I don't think Trey Lance is going to take anybody's job at this point. Trey Lance is probably going to be like Sam Darnold from here on out. If that, he couldn't even beat out Sam Darnold at San Francisco. So there's that. But it is what it is. It's just crazy to me how you think that Dak is supposed to know something that's going on. Dak doesn't know anything. Dak,
Yeah,
you
leave him
know,
alone. But again, we know how it is, the unnecessary scrutiny that comes with being a player for the Dallas Cowboys, most certainly when you are the quarterback.
yeah, absolutely. I think we should bring up the situation with TJ Hawkinson, the tight end for the Vikings. He was with the Lions, and he was traded last year from Detroit, and now he is the highest paid tight end in the National Football League. So here's the tier in terms of tight ends and average per year. TJ
Okay.
Hawkinson got 17.125 million. Darren Waller got 17 million. George Kittle got 15 million. Travis Kelce, 14 million. Dallas Goddard, 14.5 million. Mark Andrews, 14 million. Now, Chels, listen, I understand that every time somebody gets a new contract, it resets the market and they're going to be highest paid. And I am a fan of TJ Hawkinson. I like him a lot. However, I don't think TJ Hawkinson is worth any more than any of these guys. Yes, and I know that these guys are previous contracts, but he still ain't worth more than George Kittle, Travis Kelce, Mark Andrews, or even Dallas Goedert at this point.
No. Yeah. I was over here. You was looking down reading. I was over here with the slow blink, like, what?
Yes, he gets more money than all of those guys.
Okay. It's some expensive guys out here that ain't really doing as much as the others, you know.
Now, to be fair, a lot of people would consider Travis Kelce to be a guy that's underpaid, similar to Patrick Mahomes. And you know, maybe that's just what they're doing to keep themselves in Kansas City. But ultimately, I mean, even if Travis Kelce is underpaid, he's still not better than TJ. TJ Hawkinson shouldn't be getting paid more money than him in any year. I don't care what year it is. I don't care what year it is. I don't care how long ago Travis Kelce's contract is. You're not better than Travis Kelce. So no. I'm not giving you more than what I don't care if he signed a deal 3 years ago. You're not getting more than what Kelce got 3 years ago because you're not Travis Kelce.
Place yourself somewhere underneath it. Like
exactly. So yeah, I just wanted to point that out that is very interesting to see. Again, we talked about college football starting this weekend, and we saw some games in week 0, but there were some duds, and then there were some that actually played out well. So, of course, I don't know, Chels, if you had the opportunity to see Navy and Notre Dame or any of it.
I took a peek. Yeah, I took a peek, and when I saw that it wasn't going the way I wanted it to go, I peeked out.
And that was at halftime. I looked at the score and was
it absolutely was in the second quarter. I said, oh, 21-0. Hey.
It wasn't 21-0 when I turned to it. It was more than that.
It was more. I turned at 21-0. I was like, hey, I got better things to waste my time on today. Let me go online shop.
Oh, it was it was not 21-0 when I turned to it. It was I think 30 something nothing, and I was just like, oh, okay, so this is where this is going to go. One of the games that was actually really good, it turned out to be good, was Hawaii and Vanderbilt. That was one of the ones that it looked like Vanderbilt was getting ready to run away with it. At one point, Vanderbilt was up 28-14 in the second half, and then at the end of the game, they only had a 1 touchdown lead, and Hawaii was reeling. So that game actually was good. The problem is like we all look at Vanderbilt as like the dog, and the little puppy of the SEC. Like no one, like they kick that puppy around. Nobody respects the puppy, and Hawaii is, not. Since Colt Brennan's days, I don't recall people like hearing about Hawaii like that. So I think it didn't get a lot of like love because of the matchup, right? But it ultimately turned out to be a good game. But that's why you love college football, is because it's always games like that that's the game you don't expect to be good. You know what I mean? And then it turns out to be good.
Yep. That's how it goes. And that's why, I don't discredit any games. Like we talk about the games that we are looking forward to, but it always is some surprise going on. And everybody's like, hey, turn to this game on this obscure channel. This game is good.
Exactly. So that game ended up being good. Before we start looking into what we think is going to happen with college football in terms of week 1, because there's some good matchups being played. I want to talk first about this documentary, BS High, and you can consider that bullshit high. You can consider that Bishop Sycamore high. However you choose to use the term BS is completely up to you. This documentary was good, very good, but it was extremely uncomfortable, extremely frustrating, and I would like to incite violence on that young man.
Correct.
Yeah, I would like somebody to put a whole January 6th itinerary together
Hey,
against
man,
that young man, Mr. Johnson,
absolutely.
because he deserves his ass beat down to the ground. What were your thoughts on that documentary?
Ditto. So first of all, we've been talking about it, and I was excited to see it because I thought it was going to be comedy, right? I I was thinking about it from the perspective of who fooled ESPN, and y'all got the wool pulled over your eyes, and that's how I was seeing it. And when Homeboy sat down at the desk and said, "Do I look like a scammer?" I said, "Now what's going on here?" He had those wild eyes and the inappropriate smiling and laughing. Like, boy, this is serious. You ruin young men's lives. You got you left hotels with tabs. Like, you are a big time con man, and you think this is funny because he thinks that the documentary being focused on him makes him a celebrity and makes him feel like he has arrived or something. Are
Mhm.
you yes, I don't need to ask you, you are clearly out of your mind. But as I kept watching, I became more and more uncomfortable, especially when we started to hear the students' perspective, the young men's perspective, which they got a raw deal behind this. Twitter was not kind to them. Of course,
Absolutely.
without people knowing details, they automatically went to the players. Y'all was getting y'all ass beat out there. This was happening. But
And to
it
be
was
fair, we had no details back then, right?
we had no idea. And why would we not trust that ESPN would vet these people and would know what they're putting?
Exactly.
Why would we not trust that? And so once we started hearing from the students, I think my mouth dropped open the first time when the boy was like, "I already graduated from high school." I was like, "What? What?" So I assumed that they thought that they were going to like a college prep, like a
Right,
JUCO
they did. Uh-huh.
situation, and that they wanted to play. Some of them just wanted the opportunity to go to school, which regardless, people may not think about it, but sometimes people play sports in order to get access to the academic
Absolutely, for
education
sure.
that they normally would have to pay for out of pocket. And so you could tell that they were driven, they were very emotional. Some of them were crying. They were underfed, they were manipulated, they were lied to. One of the most serious things is when the young man tore his ACL and they didn't have no team physicians, no team doctors, and
Yes.
it's like the team mom is out there. I'm like, y'all, ACL happens often, but it
Yeah.
could be career ending. It could be
So it
debilitating.
it essentially did in his dreams. It did. Yeah.
Absolutely, it did. And so, when I talk about zero accountability, you see him, and we have always thought that Donald Trump was an enigma, but no, he ain't. It's a whole lot of people out here just like him, and Roy Johnson is one of them. It was a very Kanye West, a very I want to be the villain because I'm popular. I want to be this, and I'm like, yo, and I think the part where I was just like, all right, we need to rally the troops and surround his house, and they need to drag him up out of that house and beat his ass, is when they showed him the reaction to how the players felt about him and the way he reacted to them. Like,
Which was none. He had
I
no
was
reaction.
like, oh, no, no, no. So I agree with you. They need to scale his house like they scaled the Capitol down here, disturbing my peace here in DC. They need to
I
scale his house. They need to drag him out. They need to whoop his ass.
Roy Johnson is, I am not qualified, by the way, to say what I'm about to say, but it doesn't matter. If you watch the documentary, I don't think you'll disagree with me. Roy Johnson is a narcissist and a sociopath,
Oh,
and a lot of
oh,
times those things go hand in hand anyway. Um,
mhm.
the guy is a scammer. He committed a lot of fraud. He used a lot of kids for fraud. He took a lot of kids' dreams, and the thing that bothers me the most, Chels, is that he targeted black kids because it's easy to do. It's easy to target black kids. Nobody is going to hold him accountable. And even if the state of Ohio wanted to, they couldn't because he registered as a religious school. So it's nothing that they could do about it. The governor had made comments about it. And so people knew what was going on. But he was just a little bit smart in understanding what he had to do enough to not get in a whole lot of trouble throughout this. And so he knew how to maneuver the system. And it's unfortunate because the system really doesn't care about these kids. And the bottom line is they care about money. They care about, you know, putting, you know, teams or states on display and all these other things, and they don't care about these kids, particularly these black kids. And so he exploited that, and he has no remorse for it. And as a result, that's why I want somebody to go be his ass. And I'm surprised as anybody that has a kid that was with him didn't do that anyway. Like,
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
trying to understand why y'all letting this man walk around with both kneecaps.
This
Yes,
is what I'm talking about. I mean, he stole he got the children to fill out PPP loans. They didn't know
yes,
what was going on. They don't know what all of that stuff is. And the really sad thing is exactly what you said, is that you preyed on some of the most vulnerable in our population, in our culture, in our world. And you knew that no one would care because of who you preyed on. And that is what you capitalized on. You wasn't doing that to no middle class white kids. You wasn't doing that to more affluent black kids.
yep,
You preyed on their need to survive and their desperation to survive. And you capitalized on that, and you don't feel bad about it. You knew no one would care. You no apologies, no nothing. It was sick. Like, it was actually sick.
sick to my stomach.
But let me say this though. That was an egregious situation. That was
Yeah.
egregious. It was extreme, and it was out there. Don't think for 1 second that this ain't happening all the time. When you see
Oh,
all of these AAU teams coming up, when you see
yep.
all of these prep schools coming up, and it's like, oh, but it's focused on sports, but oh, we're gonna do a little education. All of that shit is predatory.
Mm-hmm.
All of it is predatory, and it's unfair. And we see, like, at the end of this documentary, we saw who gets the short end of the stick. You got students who don't have what they need to get into a regular school now, who may have gotten injuries that prevent them from ever playing football. There's quite a few of them that just like, I'm just going to try to go to school somewhere. I'm never going to be playing football. One of them is like, I'm going to just start being a rapper. Like, they're doing what they can. And another thing, he's abusive. Like, you
Oh, that's
traumatize
yeah, yeah,
the
and
kids
and
saw him
physically abusive as well.
physically and mentally abusive. They saw you beating up your girlfriend.
Yep.
And if I'm a student and I am in your house and I see you beating up your girlfriend, that is putting fear in me, because if you can do that in front of me, what are you going to do to me? And then when he ran over the geese, what were you trying to prove there?
Yep.
You know, it's like he tries to assert himself. One thing he also kept saying, he kept referring to his insecurity. He was very bold about that. You know, I'm feeding my insecurity. Oh, you absolutely were feeding your insecurity, and
Mm-hmm.
you were asserting dominance in a group of children. I don't care if they was 18, 19. Those were children to me.
I don't give a
Uh,
fuck. I don't give a fuck if it was grown-ups. I don't care who it
yeah,
is.
what are you
You were
doing? What are
you
you doing?
manipulated and lied and conned people for money. And what exactly were you doing with the money? You didn't pay the hotels that the kids were staying in. You didn't like paying for food. What exactly? You don't
You
pay
wasn't
anybody.
even getting enough money to make this a formidable scam.
Exactly. Exactly. So I'm surprised that this man still is walking around. And no, Charles and I are not typically the ones that are going to um incite violence, but I think in this case it's warranted. It's understandable.
It
And if you
literally
are
is a reaction. It literally is a
and
reaction. Every single person that I have heard say this, like, hey, somebody ain't whoop his ass yet.
I just don't understand how he's still walking out here without his face punched in. I just don't understand why there's not a dent in his fucking face.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing that makes it worse is like if you say something about him and you use his name on Twitter, I guess he's searching his name and he's following the people that he's talking about. He's a sociopath, like
Oh,
a
he can
real
keep
one.
on doing that. One of these Twitter hackers is gonna find his address, and that's gonna be all she wrote.
Okay,
So
well,
he can do that if he wants to.
I had to assume the scammer don't be in the same address for so long. So there's that. So we'll see if they're able to catch him.
I hope so.
But
Twitter, do your thing. Do your thing.
exactly. But back to college football. I wanted to talk about it because I wanted to talk about that beforehand. We got some really good games coming up. As we know that it's week 1, so this is they always have games Labor Day weekend from Thursday to Monday. And it starts with Florida at Utah. Cam Rising is not playing. He tore his ACL in the bowl game that they played in. So Cam Rising from Utah, their quarterback, he is not going to be there.
Yep.
And this is after losing their tight end in the NFL draft. So he's gone. Florida is starting Graham Mertz, who is Wisconsin's old quarterback. He transferred as well. So that should be an interesting matchup. Deion Sanders will be playing this weekend against TCU. TCU was 20.5 favorites, Chels. How do you like that?
I hope they beat the shit out of them. I hope it is embarrassing. Exact your revenge, TCU. Get your national championship revenge, because I hope they beat the shit out of them.
Yeah, it looks like that potentially is going to be a thing. There's some games that are on Sunday. One that we have to acknowledge: LSU and Florida State. I feel like that these same two teams. Well, it must be some deals that these teams, because Florida and Utah played last year as well in the swamp, and now they're playing in Utah week 1. So now we have the same thing where Florida State is hosting LSU, and I believe LSU hosted that game last year. So now they're playing. LSU is ranked 5th coming in, and Florida State is ranked 8th coming in. That game was terrible last year. I have to assume that this one is going to be much better because both teams are in the top 10.
In the top 10,
now.
Yeah.
So please don't bore me, because I think the last 2 minutes was the game, was the interesting part of the game. Everything else was a slop fest. And yeah, I'm not interested in that. Clemson is playing Duke on Monday. Clemson is ranked 9th. My favorite part about Clemson, Chels, is that they're ranked 9th. They're not in a conversation of any national championships in terms of top 4. No one is thinking about Clemson. No one gives a shit about Clemson right now. I love that for Dabo Luther King, because I don't like him at all.
Yeah, and I want all bad things for him. So wonderful. This is
wonderful.
All
bad things.
All bad
things. Thank you. Those are the most interesting games that we're going to see this weekend. As you know, week 1 is typically, a cupcake game for everyone else. These are appetizers for everyone else. But those are the games that'll be interesting. Utah is coming into this game ranked 14th. Florida is unranked, so that will be interesting if there is an upset going. So that is something that we should all be watching for this weekend. Bama plays Middle Tennessee State. I don't even know if you're going to watch that, Charles. So
no, probably not. No.
Okay, cool. Okay, cool. So you're right. So back to that Navy Notre Dame game. It was 28-0 by halftime.
Yeah.
28.
So when I peaked 21, so hey, I dipped on out of there because I was like,
so I was like, hey, okay, this one's not for me. I'm just gonna go ahead and move along. Is there anyone, Chels, as we do typically, we talk about people we want to throw into the volcano. And if you don't know what that means, throwing people in the volcano is people that are silly, stupid, dumb, ignorant, loud for no reason, loud and wrong for no reason, whatever it is that you want to call it. Is there anyone that you would like to throw into the volcano this week?
Yes. I would like to throw Ron Rivera into the volcano.
Again. Okay. What happened?
Ron, stop jumping out so we can stop putting you back in there.
Ron, stay in that damn volcano.
Stay in there. Ron Rivera said that he didn't know Sam Howell was as good as he was.
Yeah, he did.
Boy, is you the coach of this damn team? Well, stop, please. He's playing in our face right now, and I think he's intentionally. I think he's tired, and he's intentionally trying to get himself fired because he know his successor is right there.
Right,
Please
right,
stop playing.
right.
And why would you say something again? Here we go again, saying something out loud that you need to leave in the group chat. Why would you get and say, I didn't know he was as good as he was? I told my wife, man, we should have started shit. Do you coach this team? So Ron Rivera got to stop playing in my face. And I like Ron Rivera. But I think something might be wrong with that man. So yeah, he had to go in the volcano, and this time stay in there so we can stop. He's like a whack-a-mole.
Right.
Stay in the
Right.
volcano.
He was already in the volcano previously because he was snitching on his players that were feeling some type of way about Eric Bieniemy and his intensity, and told the media that. And so that's why we had him in the volcano the first time. Now we got to put him back in the volcano for essentially not paying attention and not being a head coach here. I'm going to throw Mitch McConnell in the volcano because apparently he's 1 foot in the volcano anyway. Okay. He already 1 foot in the volcano. He keep freezing up. He keep his computer keep resetting in the middle of him doing work. Okay. So, but that's what happens when you live an evil life. So, I'm just ready for him to move on. And by move on, I mean on to glory. Well, in his case, it's going to be onto hell. So I'm ready for the volcano to erupt and to the lava to hit Mr. McConnell to take him out of his own misery, because apparently he feels like he is still able to do a job at 81 years old that he is not even capable of because he can't even speak. This is the second time that he has done this before in public, to the point now where I feel like they're going to stop letting him speak in public because of
this. They have to figure out what they need to do, because they've come out and say his neurologist have come out and said, oh, he's medically cleared.
Yeah, somebody got paid good money to say that.
What do? If you don't put him out in public again, then people would be like, oh, he's not out. But if you put him out in public again, so listen, Mitch McConnell is hearing impaired. I don't know how long that's been, but he is hearing impaired. So when they were talking about speak up, hearing impairment doesn't look, let me put on my clinician hat for a second.
Okay.
Hearing impairment does not make you stuck. Initially I was like, he must have had a stroke. Maybe he has like aphasia or some sort of word finding. But then I thought about it and I'm like, well, people who are word finding actively word find. So they will say,
right, and wait till the words come. Right.
Some of my colleagues, because now the other speech pathologists, we clicking around, girl, what you think was wrong? What you think was wrong? The consensus is that he's having seizures, and you can have seizures. Not all seizures display like what you want them to display.
Right.
But seizures can stand alone. Seizures can also be symptomatic of something greater. I think the brother got a brain tumor.
Oh.
And I think that like literally his brain is short-circuiting. And if that is the case, this is only the little bit of what we're about to see from him.
Well, guess what? I don't give a damn.
Hey, you know what? You was against affordable health care for all.
Exactly. Now, ironically, you're going to get affordable health care and whatever it is that you have going on. So you'll get the best care. But someone in your position, a Joe Schmo off the street, will not. So you can go to hell and start by jumping in the volcano.
Right, in the volcano. And I'm going to tell you, Reeta, I'm sorry to cut you off, but I'm going to tell you, that's a bad way to go.
I love that for him.
Unpredictable. Brain
tumors. I love that for him. Couldn't happen to a better person.
You really don't know which function you're going to lose. You don't know. They are and this is just my opinion. Just because, listen, I've been a speech pathologist for a lot of years. I've never seen nobody get stuck on teams like that. And I have worked primarily with stroke patients, and I have not seen anything like that. And I've worked with stroke patients. I've worked with dementia patients. I've been in the Alzheimer's lock unit, baby. I work with Parkinson's. I ain't never seen nobody get stuck on teams in real life. That man got a brain tumor, and this is the cut. Brain tumors are
These are
awful.
allegations, guys. We don't know this for sure, but
This
this
is
is
allegedly. Look, I'm like the people that like the NFL doctors when they be like, "This is what it looked like." I'm gonna tell you what it looks like based on my past experience and what I can only see. And because he's stuck in one place like this, like he's not just like. And you hear at first he said, "What was I talking about?" Oh, oh no, couldn't happen to a worse person.
it could not happen to a worse, better person. He is doing the Beyonce
And
challenge extremely well out here, putting himself on mute. And we love that for him.
nasty man.
Uh, not football news, but sports news in general. Um, I Noah Lyles. I don't know what it is with these people, and by these people, I feel like it's a thing, right? I feel like um runners do these things, they start talking, and it's like, what are we doing here, right? He's a track and field star, and I feel like the runners always got something to say. So
Yep.
Noah Lyles, of course, the talk of the week, which I am extremely disappointed in you people. Take that however you like, I don't care. Because why is this a conversation? So Noah Lyles, basically paraphrasing, that is saying that he doesn't understand how anybody could be, how NBA could consider themselves world champions when they essentially play each other in the United States. And this has caused like a lot of you know talk and dialogue that I didn't even
Right.
know people cared enough about, in order to. And I think it's because football's not on yet. Like, people are just extremely bored and there's nothing to talk about. But anyway, it's a conversation that Noah Lyles, he said that, what they're the champions of what, because they don't play the world. I guess ignoring the Olympics, but okay. So of course all the NBA guys have pushed back at him, and then it's created this whole frenzy. And Chels, I do not care. I don't care. If Noah Lyles doesn't acknowledge the NBA as being world champions, who cares? Who cares? The NBA is going to continue to do what they do. They don't care. The players don't
No,
care. I don't
it,
hear anybody in other countries complaining like, how are they world champions because they ain't played us yet. You know why? Because if they play you, they're going to beat your ass down to the ground. That's why.
well, and I think it is a who cares thing, but also it's like, no, what are you really trying to say here? I feel like he is really trying to say, I am a more notable athlete because I am a world champion. Because it was unprovoked. It was an unprovoked comment.
It
And hey,
was.
fine, you could think about things the way you want to think about it. But like you said, and to your point, you are ignoring the Olympics, which I think that if we just talk about the men's basketball team, I think I read someone said that they got like 80% of all the gold medals that have ever been
They
played.
do. Yes.
So listen, the US dominates in what we dominate in, and basketball is what we dominate in. So please don't think for 1 second that these basketball players, even the sixth man, eighth man, can go and whoop up on these other countries. Everybody knows where the talent is. Everybody knows that basketball is where we are elite. And now we're moving back towards being elite in track because that's what we do, right? I don't understand what his purpose is and what are you going to gain? Whereas you could be falling in, you ain't never going to be courtside now. You done shot yourself in the foot. You ain't never gonna be courtside. Like, why choose those guys to be your enemies? And a lot of them responded because it was just an unprovoked comment. And then even Sha'Carri Richardson jumped in, and I'm like, nah, girl, I thought you was being quiet. I thought you had. What did you jumping in? You are world champions. I was like, oh, girl. So again, I hope the story dies. May it die with us tonight at the end of this podcast. May we not see nothing.
Let's wrap this up. Wrap this up, okay?
But it was
about to be on.
unprovoked, and it ignored a lot of very factual things like the persistent dominance of the USA men's basketball team that is comprised of all NBA players.
Yeah,
Shut up.
Jokic didn't stay in his country to play basketball. He came to America. So what's that reasoning? Explain that to me. Y'all say Jokic is the best basketball player in the world. Why, so it's okay for us to say that? Oh, that's okay to say because he plays against Americans. But
Mhm.
ultimately, if Jokic, if basketball was so dominant in the country that he came from, I would think that he would just stay over
Oh,
there.
why
Like
should you stay over there?
a lot of international players come over here
Because they want
to
to compete.
because they want to compete against the best in the world. Okay.
You are
Again,
not
I don't care.
considered the best unless you play in America. Period.
Yep. Yep. And
Period.
so I don't care how anybody feels about it. It's fine. And if we want to sit here and make semantics out of this, well, look at the last few times that there was an Olympics and tell me who won those Olympics. So the world champions do apply here. Okay.
Yep.
Until y'all knock them off the throne, that's what they're gonna be. So that's the part that's going to be interesting. We want to plug in our kickoff party. We will be having it on September the 7th at Mansion in Baltimore. It's going to be a good time. We got my girl DJ Kaylina that's going to be there doing some spins before the game. Of course, the game will be on. We will not be playing music during the game. We will have some
Y'all know better.
music
Don't even ask. Y'all know better. Y'all know
at,
us
at
better.
halftime. We'll have music at halftime. But there are going to be specialty drinks up until game time. It's going to be food there. Chels and I like to indulge in the hood rat activities of hookah. It will be there. Bottle service will be there. If you would choose to just not, keep going to the bar, hey, order it there.
Get your
Um,
bottle, pop it. We
exactly. So
pop
we're
this stuff out
excited.
there.
We're excited about it. This is what is this? Our 13th is it's been 13 years since we first started in 2010. So
Mhm.
um really excited. It should be a good time, I think.
Yeah, it's going to be a good time, and you can look for us in on Eventbrite. Please RSVP. We don't want Rita to send you an ugly message because we understand and we ain't see your names. And this is particularly for our folks, our friends, our family, our people that we have high expectations of. Please don't let Rita send you a nasty gram. But we would like to know who's coming so we can prepare for all of you all to be there. But like you said, it's going to be a great time. Cannot wait. And I also think it's going to be a great game.
Yeah,
I
I
think
do
it's going
too.
to be a great game. And we'll see how all of that goes. So hopefully we'll see you out if you're in the DMV area or the Baltimore area. If you are 2 hour driving distance or hour, come on down. It's going to be a
Come
great
on
time.
down.
Come on
It's gonna
down.
be a good time. We got some out of town folks coming, so it should be
Yes.
definitely fun. Um, we're also doing the Pick'em League again. So that's being reactivated. We
Yes.
will.
And I'm sorry. That should be already reactivated, but you can look for more information on that on Twitter. If you were already a member of the Pick'em League, then it probably automatically sent you something. If not, I will put the information on how you can join the Pick'em League. It's just something we do for fun. And I'll send you the information on how you can participate in the Gridiron Gals Pick'em League.
Absolutely. Before we go, do you have any final thoughts, Charles?
Well, I yes, I actually do. So today the NFL, the Cowboys organization and the NFL lost a huge person in Gil Brandt. Gil Brandt was a Cowboys executive for years. He is the scout extraordinaire. He is the reason for the Cowboys dynasty. Um, and he worked. I mean, I didn't even know Gil Brandt was 91 because he worked uh, right up until almost up to the end. He had a great show called Late Hits on Sirius XM with Alex Marvez. And he was overall a good guy, a personable guy. If you go and if you search his name on Twitter, you will see people from the big blue checks down to the small guys on the totem pole that are talking about the impact of things that he said to them, how kind he was, his eye. He was a big proponent of scouting at HBCUs. he was able to see the talent there, and you can see Steve Weiss talk about that. And just a giant of a guy. He was a Hall of Famer. He's in the Cowboys Ring of Honor, and he really helped to modernize and revitalize the scouting game in the NFL. So
Mm-hmm.
him, he lived a very long, great life. Passed away surrounded by family and friends, and there's no better way to go out, in my opinion. So rest in peace to Gil Brandt.
Yes, rest in peace to him. And I was able to see him get inducted into the Hall of Fame in 2019 because that was the year that Ed Reed was inducted. So I had the opportunity to see his speech, and it was very good. So rest in peace to him. My final thought, Chels, is that y'all always love to play in women's faces about everything. And that includes sports. And what happened with the Nebraska Cornhuskers volleyball game is phenomenal. If you haven't heard, they broke the world record for attendance of a women's sporting event. And already I've seen with 92,000 people, 92,000 people. And I've seen people already make excuses. Well, it's nothing to do in Nebraska. Well, this, that, and the third, whatever. If women's sports was as bad as y'all say it was, I would rather go cow tipping than go to a volleyball game in Nebraska. If based on what you've heard about how women's sports isn't, that great. We've seen the rise in women's sports. We saw, how the women's college basketball championship was really rated high, higher than they've ever really seen before. We've seen WNBA finally starting to get viewership that they deserve, and and still not quite where they should be, but I'm starting to see more WNBA talk, which is very promising. And then you still have stars that are going to be coming out that we talk about on the college level that'll probably amplify that game. And now the Nebraska volleyball team. So don't sit here and try to tell me that women's sports can't be successful. Women's sports is never going to be the same as men. Maybe y'all should understand women's sports is not trying to be men's sports. Maybe if once you realize that, you can see it differently. Maybe that's the problem, is that you're trying to compare apples and oranges, and it's not. And it's it's you don't have to do that. They're not apples to apples. They're apples and oranges. Women's sports are women's sports, and men's sports are men's sports.
Absolutely.
And I think that if once people start looking at it that way, Chels, then you can understand the beauty of sports. If you like sports, I don't think it matters what gender it is, enjoy it. And so I think that was extremely dope. I think volleyball is cool, and I probably would have gone just to say I was there, that I was a part of something historic. You know what I mean?
It was beautiful. 90,000 people for a volleyball game.
Well, a volleyball game.
This is majestic. Like that stadium, and they red out down there. They rock that red down there in Nebraska. I was like, this is beautiful to watch. But I 100% agree with you. And the one thing that should be pointed out is that people who really are sports fans, who really know sports, don't go around talking about, oh, women's sports is this and men's sports is this. And I remember when there was some talks about the WNBA, especially around like Brittany Griner, and we, people were talking about how significant someone like her is. And, it was a few trolls, oh, women's basketball, blah, blah, blah. And I'm just like, hey, what do you think all of these male NBA players are doing right now? They're watching the WNBA. They're live tweeting the WNBA. They're wearing the jerseys. They are shouting out their people, like they are watching it, because real hoopers know that is good ball.
Yep.
So my thing is just like, oh, you're just not a real basketball person. Yeah. You just don't really know what you're talking about.
Yeah, because if you enjoy the sport of basketball, I don't think it should matter who's playing.
Not at all.
It's a lot of fun to watch, and this WNBA season has been very interesting to follow. So I'm just really happy to see that women's sports is on the rise, as it deservingly should be. And that's the case. So we want to thank you all for listening. We got 1 week to the NFL season starts, baby. 1
We
week.
almost there. We almost there.
Almost there. 1 week till NFL season. Enjoy the college games this weekend, and we will talk to you next week.
Later.